Okay, so what are the advantage of the nickel-based superalloys? Superior high temperature strength compared to the other alloys. So if we talk about, I have already told you what are the main advantages, main properties that we are having at the top for this particular alloys, which is at a high or superior heat temperature resistance or heat strength, you can say, right, as compared to other alloys, as you can see here, right. Outstanding oxidation and corrosion resistance in a harsh environment, so it can be used very easily in any kind of environment. It doesn't matter, they will not corrode it, right, they will resist the corrosion. Excellent creep and fatigue resistance, ensuring the long service life, because whatever the component that we use in real life, they all are experiencing a dynamic loading, and due to dynamic loading, we are having a fatigue failure, and that must be sustained or resistant by the material, so that we can enhance the life of that particular component. So that is being available here, right, that is being used, being increased here, right. So and if we talk about the creep means, for it is also kind of the permanent deformation, but at a high temperature. So you are applying the continuous stress load, okay, but at a high temperature, then the deformation occurs, is known as your creep resistance. So for both, when it talk about the fatigue or creep, both the thing is going to be encountered here by this particular material. So obviously that's why it is, you can see that in super alloys. Why? Because whenever the component that we are going to use in engines mostly, because everything works on engines. Okay, so in engine parts there are too much heat. Okay, so the material that has been used for that particular component must be having more heat resistant. So that is being available here, right? And the fatigue resistant, because every component experiencing in real life, they experiencing a fatigue failure. So both the things is being encountered here by these particular materials. That's why it is a good advantage of that particular materials alloys. Maintains the phase stability even under the extreme thermal cyclic conditions. I already made that whenever it doesn't matter how temperature that you have applied, up to certain temperature, or you can say at a elevated temperature or at a high temperature, it sustains their structure or crystal structure. That is very good, because as soon as we increase the temperature, the material get start changing. Why? Their crystal structure gets changed due to structure. Their crystal structure gets changed. The material lose their ductility, brittleness, and their hardness and strength, and they start being failed. Okay, so that is being resisted here. So what are the disadvantage? Okay, disadvantage of nickel based superalloy. So expensive due to the complex manufacturing and alloy elements. So obvious, if you are getting the more advantages of anything, it means you have to pay more. Okay, so it will not be a cost effective, so it is costly, right? Difficult to machine and fabricate, requires a special processing techniques, as I have discussed earlier, that vacuum melting, and that all be required for, because why? This is not a material which is easily being processed by fabricated or machined. That's why we need a special kind of techniques to fabricate or to process machine that machine this kind of materials. Okay, so heavy, making them less suitable for application, required ultra high lightweight material. So it is a kind of the heavy materials. So wherever you are concerned of you know having less weight, we cannot apply this such a materials. And I have discussed in last class that most of the times the material, the components, the vehicles, that we try to use in in a real life, they must require the less weight, but up to certain limit, because if you increase the weight, you would having required of more energy. So you will get invested more, and that is not desirable, that is not cost effective. It means you are making the devices that which is expensive. So expenses is not in common in real life, right? Because I mean, few people in our society, they can bear that much of amount, but most of the people, which is the general middle class, they cannot afford that much of cost. Okay, so our being an engineer, we are having a concern for making everything a cost effective so that everybody could easily take the advantage of that particular things. Okay, but in some cases if we cannot do that, then we apply that component, but at the same time the cost will high, like the aeroplanes that we are having. Okay, because that is a necessity, we cannot stop flying. Okay, so we need. Okay, that's why sometimes we but still we day by day we trying to improve their body parts, their strength to the weight ratio, so that we can enhance the property, then we can have the less energy. Okay, and efficient, so that we can reduce the prices of aircrafts traveling, right? So it depends on your application parts. So most of the times we don't require a heavy material in our equipments. Okay, but that, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't mean that if you don't need a heavy weight, it means you can use a plastic or something of things just to make a a lightweight. It is not feasible as well, right? So all the times you need to think about the optimum. Okay, so what is the optimum, at what cost, which is must be feasible, and accordingly that we can get the highest efficiency as well. Okay, sometimes we are getting high efficiency but at a very high cost, which is not possible. Sometimes we are reducing the cost but efficiency is very low. That is also not required. So what we require, optimal solutions. So at a certain investment of a certain expense of a amount, we must get a moderate kind of efficiencies or their work performance. Okay, so it all depends on our requirement. Okay, that was all the story of nickel based superalloys.